Okay, welcome back to Future Focused. Renee,
Kia ora.
how are you?
I'm feeling pretty great today.
Yeah, I think it's cool to have Renee on this space. I think it's a really important conversation because you've been with us for pretty much since we've been going.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have you in this space. So, Renee, tell us your journey so far. No, actually, you know what? Tell us about your awesome whānau. Tell us about that. That's a cool piece of your guys' story.
So I have Tai is my husband, and we have been together since I was 18. So that is 20 years this year. And we have two wonderful kids. Ella's our eldest. She's almost 16, so we're looking for a car at the moment. And Harvey is a giant 14-year-old. Very sports mad kids. Ella is into her football, volleyball, and Harvey's into her netball and volleyball, and they both do surf lifesaving. And they're just, cool mount kids who keep me busy and also make our lives pretty hilarious at home as well.
Yeah, there's some pretty funny videos you put on social media of those two. I particularly like when Tai took the door off. I don't think it was Harvey's door.
Harvey's door.
Yeah, she closed the closed the hinges to show that she wanted her privacy. I think that was pretty. And you guys are obviously business owners as well.
Yes.
We've all been through a very tough period in terms of with a global pandemic, and it's been cool seeing Tai in that. But
So we own our company is called Titan Electrical. We've been in business since 2018. Obviously then went through lockdown.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we're going to have to sell the house. No, but actually lockdown, we spoke about it yesterday when I was at my B&I meeting and Jen Tanetti was there when she got a drilling question from one of the visitors in our group about how she thought lockdown was and what her personal view was around how it's caused so much anxiety and trauma in our younger people. And I just remembered back to our experience and also as an educator at that time, what that did for our kids. You were never going to ever have that time back again where you had to be home with your loved ones, that connectedness, being a full-time parent. When are you going to ever have that? You only get 4 weeks annual leave a year. A lot of it, if you've got little people, gets sucked up from sickness. So usually your children are mawiwi, and it was just time where you were able to just get to know your family. And so.
It certainly was an interesting time. It's a good segue actually because that you've kind of been with us right through that period, and we're starting to see the effects of some of that anxiety and stress. We really are. We really are seeing those sorts of behaviours starting to manifest and come through. But in our time so far, in going back to your own personal journey, I do remember the day you walked into Pat Beach and
my CV.
with your CV in hand and
photo on it, looking for a job.
And I just remember in the conversation and I was lucky enough to actually meet the owner, Lisa, and actually she's good energy. She's good energy. She's actually quite a cool personality. But you personally knew that you had a lot more in you. So we've kind of walked down that leadership pathway.
So I guess coming into Future Focus, I'd been at Active Kids for 6 years and missed out on a couple of team leader positions and knew that I was destined for more. Also living closer to home was another thing that needed to happen for me, instead of driving over the bridge to go to Tauranga every day. But I think it was just more out of my career as a teacher, and then we met and shook hands and
And we've got such a great relationship. I think, I do remember one day I just sensed you were down about something. I remember calling into the office and be like, hey, man, what's wrong? And, you guys are having business struggles, and it was, I think since those times of that piece of clarity and trust and vulnerability has been a real strength of ours, because I know personally I enjoy just coming down and sitting down and just yarning with you about some of that stuff. But it's really shining through in your leadership now. And we've spoken about this earlier this morning, I
think it's just, I've thought about it quite a lot lately, is that I've definitely become quite the thinker and reflector in my own practice as a leader. And I guess you said, what intentionally do you do? And I couldn't answer that on the spot, but when you actually nut it out, you realise that you do have intentional capabilities and and qualities that you are hard musts as well. And I guess it just comes down to being connected in your relationships and getting people to know that they can trust you and that you empathise with them not only at work, but, in their home life as well. So, and that's quite a big thing for me, for people knowing that I am, I'm there and I hear them.
Yes.
And I listen and reflect, but it's then, okay, what can we do next to then support you through what you need to get through, in a way.
I've always admired your absolute commitment to professionalism, to the sector and the professionalism within our sector. I've always admired that about you. I remember going through phases and you being quite frustrated with certain things and aspects, and your professionalism, not only as an educator, has always been unquestionable, but I think the team that you've built down at the Batch has now carried that sort of level of legacy in a large portion. I mean, we all, even me as a teacher, there were times you slipped off because, there were certain periods of the day or we're human as well.
Yeah.
But it's been great to see, and when you see people like Michelle and them who've come into our space and just really felt uplifted. Maddie, I always sing Maddie's praises because I think she's been a real success story.
Yeah, they both have.
But that sort of stuff there, just talk to us about what some of the actual changes you've seen. You don't have to talk about names, but just some of the changes that you've seen and that level of professionalism.
I think it has to start with you as well, and I guess in the sector, that we are professional educators. You do your degree, you study through whoever you study through, and I studied through Waikato University, and it was something that was very evident in our studies that, your professionalism needed to shine through, because if we don't show it ourselves, how are other people supposed to take us seriously as well? We're not just your babysitters, we are educated teachers who teach your children and guide them through their learning journey, up until they go to school.
Let's go back to Waikato University. I know I love your story of being inspired by your kapahaka tutor. Maybe not the expectation around education that was expected on you. So Waikato University, you have Ella?
Yes, I had them both. So Harvey was 10 months old,
yep.
9 months old when she started at childcare. And I cried and I cried and I cried because I had Ella with me. Also, she went to the Bay of Plenty Polytechnic childcare just for socialisation because...
that kid is very social.
Very social. I could hear her when I studied from the classroom upstairs. It would just echo through. Oh, that's my fiery red who's yelling at the kids.
Yeah.
But I had to it was either that or wait a whole nother year, and I knew I needed to start working on myself, and it made it easier for me knowing that both my children were very settled. They loved their teachers. Their teachers loved them. Harvey would run into her classroom in her PP room, run in at 9 months old to her kaiako, and that just makes it all much easier knowing that they're getting quality care as well as so you can focus on yourself. So I had a lot of self-doubt going into study as a 25-year-old. Even going to the interview process over in Waikato when you're on a panel, there's about 8 of us there, and they're asking you questions, and I'm like, I don't even know what I just like playing with kids. I like seeing them learn. But obviously I was able to say some pretty great stuff, and they chose me to be part of the course over in Tauranga. And I met some amazing friends and colleagues and through that course who we all supported each other through as well in that 3 years, and got a lot of A pluses for a person who did second year fifth and still didn't pass. I only went to school to do kapahaka so I could go to Hong Kong that year in sixth form. I know, and also having, I guess, my parents not valuing education, so that wasn't a big push in our family. But knowing that my husband and I knew when we moved back from Australia that we needed to educate ourselves to make it in New Zealand, because everyone says, oh, why move back from Aussie? There's so much money over there, but there's no family. We wanted our children to grow up in New Zealand. We wanted them to get to know their family, know them, their nans and their kurus, and not just in the Christmas holidays when it's, we could afford it or whatever. And we just wanted that safety of knowing that our kids could walk to school and not be stolen or, stand on a snake or a needle. So moved back to New Zealand when Ella was a baby, and been living in Tauranga ever since, and love it.
And in your time of study, and the self-doubt resonates with me as well.
Every assignment, you're not going to... And because I also was awarded a Teach NZ scholarship, so even that pressure, knowing that if I didn't pass this paper, our family would have to pay for this, or if I don't do well, then I don't know. And I ceased to get degrees didn't sit well with me, I wanted to be the best that I could be as an educator, and I strived for A's, so every year you'd get a letter saying, come and do your masters, come and do this, and I'm like, oh, no, it just wasn't. Do you think
that's in your future?
I don't know if that's probably not in education, in early childhood education.
Where do you think it?
I'm not sure. Yeah, potentially something else down the line. More obviously because we have our business, and that's probably where our because it's quite successful. We've got quite a few big contracts, and we have 3 staff members now. And my husband is doing amazing at what he does, but I think that's definitely maybe in a 5-10 years, that's where I need to start looking towards.
Oh, this Renee's phone's ringing. Just going back with your guys' business, it's been cool to see it, and I've even loved supporting you to do work, and there's been times where you've been like, oh, can I do work? And we tried to support that, because
when I went down to 4 days a week.
What we realise, and we keep talking about this, I know that's what I love about you is you're reflective in that you've gotten obviously far more streamlined, and your business is growing, and for me, Courtney and I actually, it's been cool seeing you guys on. I noticed the van, the black van. I'm like, oh, I'd drive that black one. And then I saw the ute come up. I'm like, oh, that's the boss's one. I mean, it's been cool for us to see you do so well professionally with us, but also with your own business. And I think. I want to talk about your partnership with Ty, because Courtney and I, obviously husband and wife team in that space. Just talk to that relationship there, because you've been through a lot, and we don't even need to dig into the house drama as well. But how does it work? How do you guys just make that work?
It's 100% all him.
So you guys have been together, since 18, did you say?
Yeah, so for 20 years.
20 years.
2003.
Right, yeah. So
how does it work? I owe my life to my husband. I don't know if that's the right thing to say.
That resonates with me according, yeah.
We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for him and his drive. He was always that kid, I guess, growing up in Mākino that was a little bit different because he didn't want the same things as other people, and I guess even in his family, people might have thought that was a little bit strange, a bit weird, but out of the norm. But he's always, his drive and his push to get where we are today. Even when we bought our investment property, I had lots of self-doubts. Even buying our first house, oh no, we can't do that. Or even starting the business, like I was very wasn't very supportive in that, and look where he is today. Like like I said, we've got 3 staff members, and the brains of it is his because he's great at his relationships.
He's so good at that.
Yeah, and his work, obviously his work ethic speaks. It's, I guess, hard being that we're not from Tauranga, so we haven't been able to break into that old boys market of, the group housing, which I guess in hindsight has been also great for us because of what is happening in the construction industry here in Tauranga. So we haven't had to rely on that constant money and income coming through, but with his relationships with but just him being him and
and delivering.
And delivering his product and his service. So I see great things happening for Titan Electrical and our family, and that's what I mean. Our kids are great kids, and you reflect on, well, what did we do to get such amazing children? And it's like, well, we intentionally were their parents.
Yeah.
And their friends, and we have lots of laughs, but parents first, and that also comes down to Tai. Like, he is that the rock of everything, and
So moving on to that kind of what Tai enables, because he's the rock, the stability, the he's that cornerstone, that po for you. What has that allowed you to do?
He's just allowed me to do whatever I want with my career. I guess I have the flexibility of not having to really worry about what I'm making, kind of thing, because, and he's just let me do. He's always that backbone too, of like, I'll go home and we'll discuss something, and a lot of my ideas that we've implemented have also just come from his. I guess being around for so long and hearing me tell him the same thing over and over, and he's like, well, why don't you just do this? Like, oh, yeah, you're right. And that's pretty much us in a nutshell. And it's just taken me quite a long time to really listen to my husband, but I'm getting there.
and that self-doubt, where's that born from?
Self-doubt of not thinking you're good enough, I guess it comes from your upbringing, I guess, and even as much as I love my mum and dad, going, doing second year, 5th, and you get told, oh, you might as well just quit, stop going to school and get a job. We'll move to Australia to get a job because that's just the normal role that we always play, and but I think the thing for us moving back to New Zealand after I met Tai, we didn't just want to live week to week. We wanted greater things. I mean, we lived very hard those first few years, but we saved lots of money knowing that we wouldn't be making any money. He worked on the port while he was studying to be an electrician, and the government supported us through that time as well. So as a stay-at-home mum, and you learn to live very frugally, is that how you pronounce it? And went to garage sales every weekend with $20 to try and fill up your house because you've got no furniture. But I think having those humble, I mean, we had quite a lot of money in Australia, but knowing what our purpose was and what we wanted for our family really drove us to where we are today. Yeah.
And I think it'll keep driving you, quite frankly.
And so, you still, buy clothes off Trade Me and buy clothes off Marketplace. I remember one Christmas we had gone to the toy library, not the toy library, but somewhere where the Christmas presents were not Christmas presents because they were second-hand presents, but kids don't know.
No.
It's the love and the memories and, the connectedness that they remember, and you being there and being present is what they remember.
And that's a great segue into kind of what you've built at the Batch, where you came from Papamoa Beach to carry to the Batch. We're talking about memories, feelings, connectedness, inspiring that deep level of love, awhi, manaakitanga, whakawhanaungatanga, all those pieces there is just so prevalent in the people's practice at the Batch.
Yeah.
And just talk to us about the importance, that brings for our role as teachers in an early childhood space.
The importance that brings. I think you have to bring a lot of who you are also, and your knowledge of where you've been, and wanting to learn and grow.
The curiosity piece is a really interesting one, because what I love most about ECE is there's almost, like when I work with new entrants, they carry no level of care. They just sit on the mat, I'm reading a book and someone just drops their guts, like just loud as fart, and kids laugh. And I remember just laughing with the kids and then carrying on with the book.
Yeah.
But in ECE, it's even less filtered, because there are still some kids in my new entrance class that would never dare fart, because there's some sort of social stigma tied to it. However, in ECE, you go and join a mat time and listen to the sounds that come out. But that level of curiosity and care, how do we as educators in an ECE space continue to facilitate learning environments that really enhance the opportunities for that to continue throughout?
I think it's just letting children be children, letting them be tamariki, and we're there to guide them along this journey, but it's seeing the greatness of what they already have as well. And knowing them, building those, it's so important. Te whāriki is all about relationships, and your relationships with your whānau, and knowing, that one day something might work for a child, the next day it won't work. So being flexible in your teaching practices to be able to support that, and just being open, vulnerable as well, being vulnerable with even this morning, you know your families.
Yes.
And if you don't know your families, then get to know them.
Yes.
That they are the first educators. We're there to help support these children while they're with us, but they know their children best.
Yeah. And what are some of those tips, we'll have other teachers and people watching. It's in that sense, what are some of the tips you'd give in terms of building those relationships?
Being available.
Yes. Yeah.
Knowing when is a good time to also have a kōrero. Sometimes in the morning's not, but sometimes it is. Maybe that's better than the afternoon. But being available,
It's funny you say that. The twins' mum, I was at Gather, and she obviously sees me all the time, kind of working and reading books and stuff there, and one day she just came and sat next to me, and we had a big talk. She just started yarning to me about what I was reading. She asked me about me, which is always nice when someone asks about you. It's nice to give audience to people, and it was so amazing just talking to someone who was interested in me outside of the sphere of her children, and things. And it was a cool moment. She's awesome. I really enjoy her, but it was such a cool moment in that space because I was available.
Yes, and being what I mean is actually being available.
Yeah, yes.
Giving your time, slowing down. if you have, and having teachers that are also in tune with you as well, to see if, hey, maybe I need to just step in to take over what the teacher's doing because there's a moment happening here. And being open to what they want to talk to you about. Also being relatable. People love knowing that you've gone through the same thing as a mum or
business owner.
Or, or,
Yep.
especially with, I guess, having sicknesses is just so hard on families at the moment, and just listening.
It's a good point about your teams being quite fluid and seeing and having the intuition to cite that something more personal was going down. I think, and that's a real skill set there. When we're it is hard. I remember personally with Marlo, I was not a fan of her going to early childhood care. I wanted her to be by me, and that was really fueled by my own trauma. But, I had a beautiful teacher named Sarita. We were friends on social media and stuff, and she was just amazing. And now that I think about what you're talking about, there were because I was very anxious about it, and there were times that I think her team, she had another lady, a Filipino lady called Candice, and she was amazing too. But Sarita and I got on so well. Now that I think about it, in the structure of the room, there were times that Sarita took extra time just to step in, and because my anxiety was I'd go and visit Marlo 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Now that I think that through, they obviously had great team intuition.
Yeah.
Because,
and I think that's something you really need to create within your teams. A lot of people have it in them naturally.
Yes.
To know how to people read, and that's also comes down to their relationships as well.
Yeah. That's such a good leadership point, really, because you can have it and you can facilitate, but actually continually facilitating intuition around relationships and knowing that maybe I get on really well with that parent versus you get on really well with that parent, and so we need to meet the needs of the current audience in front of us. I think that's actually a really powerful leadership piece.
Yeah, and I think it's the connectedness that you have. Also, we make ourselves available via Story Park for our whānau daily, especially if you know that maybe it's your first child and they've had to come into ECE when they're 6 months, but you're not really ready to go back to work, but financially you have to. Just keeping up those comms of, just cute little photos, this is what your baby's doing. And it's just something that
it's
gets
funny,
you through the day.
I'll give Taryn a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
I get all the Story Park notifications, and I always see Taryn's ones, and I took photos of she'd been referring to or just supporting a whānau through the drop-off space, and I just took photos and I just said, Taryn, I know that sometimes it's not seen, but I want you to know I am seeing it. I want you to know that it means a lot to me. Yeah. And just that small piece helps continue to, because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially when I was the anxious dad.
Yeah.
So this whānau is still connected through simple photos, seeing their child safe, happy, and that's not unique to Future Focus. Let's be honest. There are an amazing EC's facilities in Papamoa that are doing just as good as, if not better, probably in spaces what we're doing by just daily intentional actions.
Yeah.
And so let's move forward to Livingstone. It's been a long time coming, far out, but we're nearly there. Right, we're literally 2
1 week away.
1 week away from starting to settle. Far out. It's been a long time, but you've got our superstar Kendall as well alongside you, and Aroha, and we're bringing in that sort of superstar force there.
I feel very privileged to be given this opportunity. obviously it's the first centre that was supposed to open first for Future Focus. It's the first one you've been able to put your heart and soul into designing. So yeah, there's some big shoes to fill, but I'm ready for the challenge and the opportunity, and it's going to be a pretty wicked ride.
We're excited because Courtney and I were reflecting just on you yesterday. We were talking about I think you popped up a message about about your team on the from Matariki. And for us, it means a lot to Courtney and I to be able to facilitate your opportunity and growth and seeing you continually grow. And Livingstone Drive offers another chance for you to now re-establish and reaffirm probably some of your leadership beliefs. What do you kind of forecast as some of your real you're really looking forward to getting stuck into?
Getting stuck into, I guess, building a culture where teachers know they really belong. They have a voice. That they are collaborative and they are professional. And I'm going to use this, that we all know how each other roll. Everyone will know and be intuitive. Like I just want to build. I foresee, I don't know, I really want to see a truly bicultural centre, and I want this to be the first one for Future Focus to be. To live in both Te Ao Māori and in our Pākehā world, and I just know that with the teachers that we already have, the passion's already there, and I know we potentially have a Ponareo coming up in the future, so through Future Focus, and I think this is something that I've been quite passionate about for quite some time. And I just want to create that.
You've got a pretty cool team to start with as well. We fought hard for Kendall because I know the potential that Kendall she has, but it's so cool knowing that she's going to come into operations under you. In that mentoring space and that growth space right from the outset, and we're talking about collaboration, intuition, those sorts of pieces. What do you think are some of the daily actions you will take or have to take to ensure that is being, facilitated, if not evolved?
Daily actions, being with my team. Like, I think that's going to be quite a pivotal thing to do, to work alongside them. I know the girls at the batch have always called me the boss, but I hate just like you've been called the boss. I'm just a teacher who's here to just help support you and guide you guys along this journey to help support our little people. That's definitely all I see my role as, and not all I see my role as, but it's not a label that I like, which I guess comes back to the fact that we're called centre leaders and not centre managers, because we're there to lead people through and bring out the greatness in them to be able to shine through and provide the best opportunities that we can for our little people.
I think that's been, this morning I asked you about when you discussed when we were verbalising greatness, I asked you a question about, what actions have you taken? You're like, I don't know. But there's one thing that I want to bring up. So I hear a lot of times from you saying, there's greatness. I see there's greatness in them. There's greatness in them. Now, greatness is a big word. It's not, there's good things in people. They've got potential versus greatness.
Yeah.
And I love that word. And I think, in particular, being Māori and in business, which we both are, and in that space, throwing around greatness that's not tied to being a sports star, performer. The amount of times you hear that to break out, you got to be an All Black NRL player or on Shortland Street. I think although those are great, we are more than that as well in that greatness realm, especially because you and I are in a space with business where, I don't know about you, but I certainly didn't know any Māori in business.
No.
We're from small towns. Everyone kind of worked in the mill and things like that, and Tai as well, being from Mangakino.
Yeah. And from where I'm from, everyone works in AFCO.
Yes, so there you go. AFCO's chief is a big Māori employer. When we talk about greatness, what is that as a leader? How do you see greatness, even when it's not being achieved?
Even when you don't see it to start with, it's
in
knowing
practice.
their story.
Yes. Cool.
Listening to them, hearing them. Michelle, for example, when she came in, obviously her first interview was actually to be a chef at the Boulevard. Then realised that that wasn't going to be something that she could sustain with having to write menus and stuff like that. And then she went on our relieving list, and I gave her an opportunity. And from that day, I knew that I wanted her to be in our team. She had said that, obviously she's dyslexic, and then told me her story about where she worked previously, which was horrible. And so I had to pull down those barriers to get to the greatness of what was within, which is what I already knew. But she needed to see that too. And this year, coming back in January, she has some big plans, and she's like, no, I can do this. I can write learning stories. I can do this, and I want to plan this, and I just want more. And she's just flying.
She's a real success story. I think one of the most creative people I've met. Like, unbelievably creative, and
she's challenging herself daily.
Yes,
daily.
And because she's battled, it's like Holly. She's battling with the stigma of a learning need. That's all it is.
Yep.
Or dyslexia, and it's just they just approach the world differently.
Yeah. But she's been told that she's worthless.
And it's very easy to believe the hype.
Yep.
And she has been a real success story, because we have all recognised, acknowledged the greatness in it. And it's not just her artistically. It's what she brings the team.
Oh, yeah.
She loves banter.
She
loves a joke, man. She loves a laugh. She is. I've got a bone to pick with you. She is.
Renee. She calls me Renee. It's like, it's Renee. But Renee, what do you want now, Michelle?
She's just, such a great character.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of bittersweet leaving the batch as well. So, because I love my team so much, they, it's these challenging days, and but no day's ever a challenge for them. They always come in every day happy, ready to start a new day to provide a greatness for the tamariki that we have. And so it's, everyone asks me, are you so excited to go to Livingstone? Yes, I am. I'm very excited, but also means that I'm leaving a part of me.
Yeah.
Which I'm very happy to do, because I know they're in awesome hands with Rose coming in. I think that was another big piece of finding the right person for my very special team.
That's worked out beautifully.
Yeah. Well, everything works out for a reason. And
that has absolutely worked out beautifully, I think. And now, you Rose comes in, but you're there next week to help her.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful piece where all Whānau they'll come through and they'll see both you.
Yeah.
You both will be available. I really feel like we've got this one right.
Yeah.
Because, we learned a lot from the transition out of Pat Beach into the Batch and the Boulevard.
And it's good that we're reflecting on how we could do better as well, making
100%,
sure that
100%.
With us all leaving at the same time, which is unfortunate but had to happen with them both coming up at the same time, realising that the impact that we had, that had on the whānau that we had, and our tamariki as well. So making sure that it's seamless. Things are seamless now, and
I do feel like we've got this one right. I'm excited for Rose. I think so. Rose will come in and we'll get a podcast done with Rose as she goes into a stretch. I mean, it speaks volumes of her this morning. She texted me yesterday and said, "Hey, can I just miss the leadership meeting today? I just really want to spend the last day with the kids." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, absolutely." You know, and you've left places. I've left places. I know those feelings. You know, when I left schools like Te Kōwhai and certainly even when I left the Middle East, you know, and things like that, and you feel like you've created really cool things, and you've got great relationships with kids and team members, and it is hard, but man, I'm excited for the next phase, and you've created such a great base for that. For I think anyone who walks into that space and doesn't succeed, you know, that would be absolute surprise.
Yeah.
I think you've really set that tone and space for the next phase, and that's always the cool thing.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's cool to have you in the literally still in the fray.
Yeah.
Because often the business model was someone leaves.
Yeah.
So that's why someone comes in. But it's so cool for us to see you still literally be down the road and see that you're actually part and parcel. You're a piece of advice for Rose. You know, she can ring and say, "Hey, what's this program?" Or "How do you open this door?" Or "How the heck does the washing machine work?" You know, versus like I know my own principalship. I went in and Scott was the guy who was before me, but like I couldn't even get in touch with him. Like he basically was like, "Oh, I'm done here."
And I think that's what's really important to us too with our whānau. So having them know, like even when I put my post up, but you know, I'm still going to be around.
Yeah.
I worked from Puffamore Beach a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago. And I haven't worked there for, obviously, as a teacher for 2 years now. And a family was like, "Oh, are you back? Are you back here now?" Like, "Oh, no. Still just, you know, at the other place, but just working from here today with my mates." I love that about our organisation. Yeah.
You know, like it is pretty evident that our leadership team is very connected.
Yes.
You know, we all know that we're all going to rally around Rose.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to get behind her. And I think that was part of it. She knew that that she has got a lot of support behind her going into this venture. It's not just being dumped in the deep end and told to swim.
And the batch is very special. You know, it's our smallest baby, like, you know, 50 tamariki. So, I think she's just going to fly there, and I can't wait to see what she does with that team as well. Yeah.
Well, just to wrap up, we've been asking a question of our team members if they can think of one child. You don't have to name them or give their last name. I think you can give a name without giving a last name. But one child that has had a major impact on you, on your career.
I think more for me, thinking more from the centre leadership, is supporting the whole ecosystem of the child, not just that child. I was able to, we've got a child in our centre at the moment, even his dad today was really sad that I'm leaving, and it was a big shock to her. Just supported through, I guess, times of Horanga Tamariki, going through to a family group conference, to be there to support his development and how well he's done in being with us, and also supporting, you know, his mum and dad doing the best that they can, but also being in Nan's care and knowing that he's thriving in her care, and that they were open to me coming to that family group conference. That was quite special for me. And talking to the social worker, saying that this is not the norm, like childcare centres don't go out of their way to do this. Like I've contacted Child Developmental Services to be able to support a couple of our whānau going through the autism journey with their children and just wanting to be there to support them in that, I guess, clinical space, making sure that they also are not getting lost in that.
It's advocacy, right?
Yeah, being that advocate. And so...
We get such a huge snapshot into a child's life.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I don't understand. We get such a snapshot into... We are such a major part of a child's life.
And I just didn't understand why we don't get invited to things. So I pushed to get invited to this family group conference. It baffles me.
And I wasn't allowed to come along either, and
weren't.
I wanted to come along to also be very clear, because I want to learn from these situations. Yes. I want to turn up to those, and I might not know the child deep, but I want to know that as an organisation that we're meeting the needs.
That we're doing the best
that we can, that we have all available information so we can make have a higher probability of making greater decisions that
and
support
success for these children.
I know it is a deep frustration of mine. And I know that situation certainly frustrated me, because I'm like, wouldn't you have the owner of the place along so that we have it systemised in our own organisation and setups, so that when we see these situations again, we can actually act with more information. It actually is quite baffling that for a group of people that have a major piece, and I think what's undervalued is, yes, we see them in terms of a total time over the week. But you think about an average child that comes from 7:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. So that means they probably have an hour in the morning with their parents, maybe less, or 45 minutes, a 15-minute car ride. Then they get picked up at 5:30, probably bath, probably kai time, and then probably bed.
Yeah.
You know, like, not only do we see them a lot, we also see them through the most critical parts of the day.
Yeah.
Like, that was it was really cool to see you battle through and get included in that kōrero. And I know we've got enough support systems around that whānau to ensure. And again, you're only literally down the road. Like, it's not like you're moving to Mangakino. But
I think that's definitely... and just learning more about these external services as well, to be able to support my families better. Because it's not just something that they say, okay, this is what happens, and then this is what happens, and you're involved here. Yeah. You actually have to fight to gather information to get, okay, so I'm always about so what next? Where to next?
Yes.
Where
What's
else
our
can
next
I support?
actions? Yeah, where do we follow through here?
Yeah. What else could we be doing for this child?
And what do we know? So what's the lesson here? So that when we roll back around, we can actually support
have systemised.
And it's quicker.
Yeah.
Because I think waste time, with wasted time, it's so detrimental. Yeah. It's just unbelievably detrimental. It does not take into, it builds it always into extenuating circumstance that ultimately the child and the whānau suffer. It's just, I'm proud of us for that. And again, that might not be unique to us. I like to believe it is, but it might not be. But if we truly are here for children, then we need to have access to these external agencies. And I'm really proud of that, because you really fought back to them about that.
But it was just surprising that it wasn't something that also was the norm,
I know.
Childcare centres, educators, we should all be wanting to push into those meetings, because what are we about?
Children,
We're about children.
And I think that key point, and that's the wording I've been using for a while, but we talk about the ecosystem of the child. We do talk about that. We've got other children in centres where we talked about it's when we're getting support from external providers or external support, that the ecosystem really needs to be in sync. We talk about the centre, the whānau, and then whatever the external provider is, and that all working together around the child is just so critical. And it is a good example with what you're talking about of ensuring that we fight, like you say, and it literally is right now. That is the That is the right analogy. Is actually we have to scrap to get in and support. Actually, sit down and have conversations when we've got a huge portion of information.
Oh, when we're educated.
Yes.
You know, we
yes.
know about them holistically, their
Yes.
whole development. And we see them, like you say, 7:30 to 5:30 sometimes.
Yeah. That's a huge snapshot of kids, of children.
Just, yeah.
That's
We
50,
have the knowledge.
That's like 50 hours. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of a total 168 hours a week. We literally nearly have we have many kids that we literally have them for nearly a third of the week. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And of their waking hours, we've got them. So yeah, I appreciate your real energy back into that situation for that. Okay, well look, thank you, Renee. Look, we're really excited. I know as a leadership team, we are very excited for as a leadership council, we're really excited for your next part of your journey. I think we certainly thank you for what you've done at the Batch in terms of not just the fiscality of the business, but also what you've brought in the leadership space and empowering teachers and people.
Well, like I said in our meeting earlier, this all comes down to you and Courtney. You know, you are striving for greatness as well, which then makes us want more. You know, and yeah, so.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the relationship you and I have, and I thank Ty in his space and what he does for you as a husband and a business partner and a friend, and to Ella and Harv, and they're awesome souls. I've been lucky enough to have a bit of extra time with Ella in spaces, and I really enjoy their company. And so, bring on Livingstone. Yeah, I can't wait to do the next one where we get to talk about how you're going there. But thank you very much, Renee.
That'd be cool. Thanks.
Thank you.